Are we on? Hello everybody, how you going? And welcome to episode 3 of The Humble Onion. I'll wish you a really good morning from where I am. I don't know what time it is where you are. That's the beauty of the internet. Today we're going to be making some gnocchi. We're having a gnocchi masterclass. First step, guys, with our gnocchi, okay? I've got some potatoes boiling. I went with 1.2 kilos of potatoes initially. I use royal blue where I live. That's a really good variety. It's got enough starch for it to hold together. It's got enough structure and it's not too wet that it's just gonna make sloppy gnocchi. So you gotta pick the potato that's right for your area, okay? Lightly seasoned water. So we're gonna strain these out. And then we're gonna go back into the pot and get these drying out on the stove, okay? What's really important with this is that we get our potato nice and dry. We want to make it really fluffy before we start adding in our flour and our egg, because the more water we can get out of these now, the lighter our gnocchi is going to be at the end. Because what we want is pillowy, marshmallowy gnocchi, okay? Any steam that you see coming off here, just think about that as water that isn't inside your gnocchis by the end, okay? Give them a little bit of a see into. Keep an eye on it. You're going to need one of these. This cost me $22 where I live in the shop, so I'm sure you can find one online for cheaper. And this is going to pass the potatoes without overworking them the way that your masher does. So if you've ever made gnocchi at home using a food processor or a potato masher and you've got really gloopy, pasty gnocchi at the end, this step is going to fix that for you, okay? You can also use a potato ricer. That's really handy, but they're the two best ones. All right, our potatoes are nice and dry. Our recipe. It's a real recipe to make it at home. For 1 kilo of moulied potato, we're gonna add 1 egg and 240 grams of plain flour. We're also gonna put some nutmeg in ours. I like the flavor, that's your choice, but I like nutmeg. And obviously we're gonna season, as always, with sea salt as well. So right now I'm just gonna moulie straight out onto here, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna put that dough together, okay? Moulieing our potatoes onto our incredibly clean bench. I feel like all I do is clean my house and prepare for these filmings before I destroy my house. So you can see how light this is. This is what we're after. So as you can see, our potato here is looking really light and fluffy in a way that it just doesn't when you've smashed it up with potato masher. So what we're gonna do here, 240 grams of our flour that we're going to go in with here. We're trying to divide this in really nice and evenly. The pastry card, really, really handy piece of equipment, okay? Anything we're doing with doughs, it's really handy. We'll do cakes, we'll do things down the line that you're going to use these for. You can pick these up really cheap. You can also just cut it out of the top of like a plastic bucket or something like that. You can cut this out of a lid really easily, but they're incredibly handy. They keep your hands clean, but also you see the dough isn't sticking to the pastry card the way it would be sticking to your hands. We're gonna cut some of this flour in. Sprinkle of nutmeg on there. Seasoning of salt. If you had any like ground white pepper, you can go in with that now. Use black pepper, it's your gnocchi. If there's little flecks of black pepper through it, it's okay. And we're gonna add 1 egg. And now all we're gonna be doing is kneading this dough. Okay, so it starts out looking a little messy, but because we weighed things and we know that our recipe is right, this is gonna come together really beautifully at the end. So what we want is a dough that's soft, but doesn't stick to our hands when we come to roll it out. We don't want it sticking to the bench. We don't want to have to use lots of excess flour when we come to rolling our gnocchi. Great one with a pastry card. We scrape it all back in. Now, with our gnocchi, we're thinking about starch. Potato starch is going to set as it cools down, okay? So we want to be rolling this whilst it's still warm. And this is our dough here. Okay, so we're going to start rolling. It's tea this morning. It's too early for the shenanigans. So we want to be playing with this whilst it's warm. As long as this isn't springing back at you once you've kneaded it, you know that you haven't kneaded too far, but you do want to take it far enough that you've made a nice smooth dough. And because we're going to rest it and then poach it and then fry it, you've got a little bit more leeway with this dough than just a large poached gnocchi, so you'll be all good. We're going to use these. This is ideal. I really like the grill scraper. If you just have a knife that you're okay to use on the bench, do it with whatever you want, but I find this the easiest way to go. We're gonna cut a piece off. Just a little bit of flour. When you're whipping the flour, you do it like feeding the chooks. Okay, just give it a little, we want a nice even spread. And what we're doing here, as we roll this out, we're trying to roll nice and evenly from the middle out. We don't want to end up with this undulating gnocchi because every one that you cut is going to be a different shape and size, okay? So we really want to try to get this as symmetrical as possible. So you can already see from 1 kilo of potatoes, we're going to get a lot of gnocchis, which is really, really economical. 1 kilo of potatoes, 1 cup of flour and 1 egg, and all of a sudden you're feeding easily your whole family, and you're making something from scratch that's just so much better when it's fresh. So I'm going to roll these together. Now the action shot. We have our little gnocchis. If you have one of these, this is a gnocchi board. You can use the back of a fork as well, it's totally fine. You can just leave them in this shape, you don't have to do anything. But we're gonna come through and just roll these over. This shape is called gnocchetti. And these beautiful here, so we'll watch this nice and slow and we just roll it off the thumb. So what these grooves are doing is just making texture in the gnocchi that's gonna hold our sauce later on down the line when we come to put these up. I'll show you down the back of a fork if you want. Just hold these in your hand and roll them into tubes with a fork is really nice as well, just to square them off. You can just leave them as this, it's absolutely no worry at all. Now we've got our gnocchis, our little gnocchis here all rolled out. We're just gonna rest these in the fridge for a couple of hours is really ideal. Definitely an hour is good. You can leave them on the bench if you want, if your house is nice and cool. Just make sure there's a good amount of moisture, because if they're warm, they're not really going to sort of seal up on the edges and they may absorb a little bit of extra moisture. So just bear that in mind. And then we're going to poach these guys off and we're going to put some delicious gnocchi together. Okay, whilst our gnocchi is resting, we're going to make some things that are going to go with the garnish for the gnocchi. We're not trying to make a whole gnocchi salad. The gnocchi is the meal and we just want to put some things with it that are going to be delicious. We're going to make a vegetarian meal today. And it's still going to be delicious somehow. I have some wonderful mushrooms here. These are from my friends down in Palmyra, the mushroom guys. These are really, really awesome mixed mushrooms. These are going to get sauteed off and then we're going to make, it's called a piccata. If you blended it up, it'll be pesto in Italian. We're going to chop some nuts, some herbs, some aromats and some cheese. And we're going to toss that all through our mushrooms when they're ready. We're also going to throw some peas in there as well. It's going to be very, very nice. I have some toasted walnuts here. Hot tip with walnuts, before you toast them, give them a little wash. They have a little powder on the outside of them that can be quite bitter. If you wash that off before you toast them, you'll end up with a way better product. So they're going to go into our mortar and pestle. Smashing. There's a lot of oil and a lot of fat in nuts. By pounding them, it's awesome because you're releasing a lot of that oil. Piccata traditionally would be almonds and lots of mixed herbs, and it's used to thicken seafood stews. It's an awesome way to get texture into your dish. You can use any different nuts, pine nuts. You can use sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds as well if you're allergic. Next thing we're going to do, using a microplane, I'm going to get the zest off here. Hot tip with zesting. Go a ring around the top, ring around the bottom, and then just go from top to bottom with each stroke, and you're guaranteed to get all your zest off. Kitchen secrets. I'm probably going to go 3/4. I'm also going to add 2 cloves of manjamup garlic. I'm also going to throw in some rosemary, and we're going to smash this. I'm going to go in with a little bit of chili in mine. I like a little bit of chili, and these were grown by my stepmom, so I want to use them. This can really be whatever you want, but it's an awesome way to build that flavor. I'm going to go in with some capers. You could use anchovies here. You could use, start your pan with bacon, use guanciale or pancetta. And then I'm gonna go in with my parsley. So I use curly parsley. You can use whatever you've got kicking around in your fridge. Mint, basil, thyme, whatever, literally whatever you've got. Quantity is gonna be your call as well. I really like the mortar and pestle. It's smashing all these flavors together. I'm gonna go back in with the nuts. I'm gonna go in with some olive oil and some salt. Who needs meat? This smells incredible. A little bit more salt. And there is our wonderful flavor paste. Okay, so we're gonna put our gnocchi together. I have my gnocchi over here, which is rested and wonderful. In this pan, we're gonna get our wonderful mushroom guy mushrooms. A little bit of oil. Oh, they smell incredible. Give those a season. We want to let them seal, that's really important. We want to get some color, some flavor on there. Whilst that's happening, in this rolling pot of salted boiling water, I'm going in with my little gnocchis. Now, when they float, people think, oh, as soon as they float, they're done. That's not really the case. We still want them to cook inside for just a minute, but floating is a good indicator they're nearly there. I'm not going to add much more oil to these because we're going to go in with our delicious dressing. I don't want to add too much. Mushrooms also contain quite a lot of water. So you think at the beginning they've soaked up all that oil, but they will come around and drop it at the end. Our gnocchi are just starting to float. These have simmered for just a minute on the surface. It's also great with the shape, pushing your thumb down. You created more surface area, so they're going to cook quicker. So our mushrooms here, we're going to give them some butter. Which is going to help to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to go in with some of our wonderful walnut piccata. So we're just going to cook that out. Remember, we went in with raw garlic, raw chili. We still want to keep a lot of the vibrancy, and that's why I kept some of it back, because we're going to go in when we build this thing all together, and the gnocchis in the pan will go in with some fresh as well. So we're going to be building the layers and the flavors. We don't want to let it stick. We don't want to let those things burn. With that kind of surface area, things are going to catch very quickly. So our lovely herbed mushrooms are just waiting now for us to fry off our gnocchi and bring this whole dish together. You can do anything with this gnocchi that you like. From here, from this stage now, this is a blank slate. If you just have some tomato sauce, some basil, perfect. Make your normal bolognese for your spaghetti bolognese, but use the gnocchi instead. Literally, the sky's the limit. We're going to go in with some oil in here. We need a little bit. As soon as we see a couple of little wisps of smoke, we know that we're going to be hot enough. Okay, we don't want to go into the pan with too many at once because we don't want them to stick and cool the pan down. We're going to make sure that these aren't sticking in the bottom of our pan. We want to get a nice seal on one side, try to flip them over and get a good caramelization on the other side as well. You see some really nice color here. What's really fantastic with the pan-fried gnocchi I like so much, when we go in here now with some butter and then back in with our mushrooms, the gnocchi just soak those right in. Awesome. Once the butter goes in, because of the dairy in the butter, that'll stop any more of the sealing. So you really want to make sure that the gnocchi is sealed just with the oil before we go in with our butter. The color we've got these right now is perfect. And we're going to go in with some butter. For me, that is an incredibly reserved amount of butter. So you see how the butter's just coating them all though? Lovely looking. Oh, fantastic. I'm going to go in now with my peas. These are frozen peas because I'm not an idiot. Just buy frozen peas. I'm going to go in with some mushrooms. Everything in here now. We're going to go in with just a little bit more of our piccata, a drizzle of olive oil, squeezes of lemon, just to lift this whole thing back up. We're going to taste it. Just a little more salt. That's fantastic. Peas are nice and sweet. Mushrooms are earthy. We've got some heat. Just a little bit of heat from the chili. The garlic's fantastic. Going through here to plate up. We're going to have a few more of our walnuts from the beginning. Just a little bit of our parsley. And then we just cheese. This is pecorino. You can use whatever you like. I really like pecorino. And that's our pan-fried gnocchi, ladies and gentlemen. With mushrooms, peas, and walnut piccata. And guys, what is rapidly becoming my favorite part of the episode is where I get to eat. It's absolutely fantastically good. This is so wonderful. Use anything you've got at home. Just make the gnocchi. Eat the gnocchi on its own with just some butter. You don't need anything else. The gnocchi's perfect. It's 10 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, fucking beer. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh my god. Are we wrapping this up?
Guys, that's it. Episode 3. Done and dusted. We are flying through them. To the thousands of people that message me daily, I really appreciate it. You guys have been a massive support to me so far, you know, getting this off the ground. No, seriously, if there's stuff you want to see, if there's stuff you want to know about, questions you have, get at me. We're going to do a dessert episode next week, guys. Hey, so stick around. We're having fun. Humble onion. There's a dog filming right now. Who cares? Who cares? Is that good? Are we done? Does everyone know how delicious this is?
Please stop.